everyone, welcome to today's video. Today I'm resurrecting an idea that I haven't touched in over 6 months because I want to do it again. Now I know I've gotten new viewers since I've introduced this idea, so basically what the idea was, I would pick a form of media, which I had 3 different versions of it going at one point, or 4 different versions of it going at one point, with either YouTube videos or TV shows and movies that I had DVDs of and tarot cards. And then when I picked a random thing from it, I would create a project based off of that. And today I'm deciding to resurrect the tarot card one. I have actually attempted to do it in the past. Like, I had 2 videos out with tarot cards, I believe it was. It might be 3. I think it's 2. And I was gonna release another one, but then I made a big mistake. I chose a project from it that was too big. As in, I started it over 6 months ago and I'm still working on it. And truth be told, I kind of just want to gain the creative inspiration again, and hopefully this time I will stick to something smaller. Here's how it works. I have a list of all the tarot and oracle decks that I own. It was 1 to 48, but I have bought some more since then, so it's now 1 through 55. I'm gonna use a random number generator that I found on Google to give me a number. If I choose either a deck that I've already done or the deck that I am currently start on, I will redo it. But if it's any other deck, I will go get that deck, bring it up, and I will pick a card from it, and that will be my basis for what I create from instead of the whole deck. So I've got 1 through 55. We're going to generate 7. The Magickal Spells deck. Alright, let me go get it. Alright, here it is. This is actually quite an interesting little deck. I enjoyed listening to tarot pick-a-card readings on YouTube. It's as close to meditation as I actually get, honestly. It's just very soothing to hear someone else's voice just read through the cards and interpret it. And back when I was staring a little bit more at the videos, there was a particular deck that caught my attention. And I actually went online and searched it out for myself. I saw it on one of Gem Goddess's videos. I think she still uses them, possibly. They were really big in her videos about 2-3 years ago. This was that deck. This has little rhyming couplets on all the cards. Well, one, all the backs are different. There are like different designs on the backs of the cards. They don't really, I'm not entirely sure how they correlate. I figured it out. There are like 5 different designs on them. And then the actual deck itself is colorful, combined with couplets. I don't really use the guidebook for this deck so much, because the guidebook is largely how to cast spells, and quite honestly, I wasn't really into that at the time. I mean, I have tried casting spells before. It's not my thing as much as tarot cards are, to be quite honest. But we're going to pick a card from this deck, see what pops out. See what card picks our attention. And I am not taking half the deck. We are going to make something small from this, so I can finish it quickly. Ooh, I have just one. I had a feeling it was going to be purple. Okay, so I can already see creativity. By all above and all below, let me let me connect, let creativity flow. And ooh. Alright, so we got a couple things, yeah. On the back we got this sort of mandala-like thing. Although not entirely symmetrical, there's like a triangle inside a square inside a circle, and there's like some symbols there. So we got some geometric thing going on. But here we got someone bathed in an inspirational light. There's light and dark. There's a tree. I can't necessarily pull a tree because I've already done one. Thank you, Lotteria deck. You know, this is kind of like this drawing style is kind of like an ink. Ink what? Woodcut! Ink woodcut! There we go. It's like those old ink woodcuts where someone would carve into it and then they would like do printmaking and whatnot. It has definitely of a harsher feel to it, but it's delicate. And it's purple. Which I guess makes sense, like creativity would probably come from the crown chakra, and the crown chakra is usually, like up here, is often seen as a purple. If I'm remembering that correctly. There's lots of swirlies here. I'm gonna have to meditate on this one a little bit more in order to decide what I'm gonna make with it. So we'll see. When I figure it out, I'll tell ya. I figured out what I'm gonna make for the creativity card from the Magickal Spells deck. I was reminded of a book that I got when I was 13, shortly after my grandmother died. This is it. It's The Meaning of Life by Trevor Grieve. Oh! I just realized it's Grieve and not green. And I'm pretty sure it was given to me because there was a frog on the front cover. But there's something in this book that I'm constantly reminded of as time goes by. For those of you who've never read this book, which I imagine is quite a lot of you, it's not a very common book. It's basically a photo essay. It's filled with a bunch of animal photos combined with this essay that Bradley wrote here about how you can find your meaning in life. And spoiler alert, it's basically deciding what your passion is and going after it. So in the middle of the book, when he's talking about how you may find it, there's one picture that keeps popping up in my mind because it's wrong. It's like, it's also from the book, it says, it's also highly unlikely that one day you'll be suddenly bathed in bright light and your life's purpose will be laid out in a divine vision. And it's guaranteed that you won't find it on television. This is the page. Nowadays, you absolutely can find the meaning of life on television. Or, if not television, through some sort of social media outlet. Especially since this book was written in 2002. And since 2002, we've had a pretty big boom in electronic devices and social media and things of that nature, yeah. We now live in a world where word and action are starting to blur together and are oftentimes the same thing. It's no, the pen is mightier than the sword. It's, the pen is the sword. Yeah? So, you can often find your life's meaning through reading other things, yeah? Or through the words that other people tell you. And nowadays, words are often the actions. And here's the thing about creativity. Creativity can't exist without context. The whole way that creativity can exist is it's a new way of thinking about things. And in order to have a new way about thinking about things, you have to have an original way of thinking about things, yeah? I think T.S. Eliot hit it more on the nose with a quote he wrote in a essay that he wrote for like a book of, I think it might have been a book of reviews. I don't quite remember. I don't remember the quote off the top of my head, but if I remember it, I'll insert it here. But the general gist of this quote is you can't be creative without, like, as I mentioned, without some sort of context that goes behind it. So I was thinking like, well, I could do a TV, yeah? I could try to make a purple TV because the card is purple. And with the card kind of being like an ink style, what ink style would have a TV? Calvin and Hobbes comic. But then I thought, like, that was a lot of effort. I'm not sure I want to, like, make a bulky square. And if you kind of look at this, the page that was right next to the page that I was constantly thinking about, it says, like, it's unlikely you'll be bathed in a bright light. That's very similar to our card, isn't it? But with the idea that creativity is about connections, it reminded me of something else that I read recently. So, I was talking about this magazine in a previous video, yeah? And right next to the pattern that I've been working on is another pattern that I've been wanting to do. And this is the perfect opportunity to do that, yeah? The Sensory Baby Book. Because lots of creativity is about doing context, and while it would be kind of difficult to design a TV, like stuffed animal, to like show that it'd be kind of boring, this would be more engaged with the creativity, yeah? Because like this, the whole thing is feel it. Like make things, feel things, and engage the senses to kind of expand your world. And I can scrounge up enough purple yarn to do that. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a monochrome sensory baby book. I'm probably going to get rid of the feel. Well, I was thinking like, because like the word is creativity and I don't really feel like putting out all creativity, but then the hand would look more like the back, especially even though it's not the back of the creativity card. A lot of the other cards do have a hand on the back of them, so it would still reference the deck. And if I just follow instructions, I can keep this simple. This is going to be exciting. Here is the first part of the book, which is not the first part of the pattern, but it was the first part of the pattern that I decided to work on, which was the cover. And I'm thinking about tearing it all out. So I don't know if you can tell, but while this side is pretty straight and pretty good, this side has a curve. And I started with a chain of 29 stitches. It turns to 28, which I forgot that since this is a British pattern that I'm following, I had to use the British abbreviations and not the American abbreviations. So I actually started doing a completely different stitch. I started doing the double crochet instead of single crochet until it was like, oh, the doy. Becky, switch gears here. But I lost a stitch. That's why it curved. Because when I counted up here, I was at 27. And the fact that the curve happened somewhere around here meant it happened really early on. I mean, yeah, it's one stitch per row, big deal, whoop. And I could just continue on, and no one would probably notice unless I told them. But this is the type of thing that, especially since there are no instructions for adding a separate border that would hide it, that would bother me. So I'm taking it all out. Usually, this is the type of decision where, since I know that I've been awake for, well, how long has it been? It's like almost 10 a.m. now. I've been awake since like 5:30 p.m. It's like I've been awake for more than 12 hours. Let's just put it that way. When I've been awake for like that long in the day, and usually like we know that I should have gone to bed by now, but I didn't. Like usually at this point it's like, think it over before you tear it all out again. And I'm like see if you can live with your mistake. And usually I'd be okay to do that, but the thing about being awake for that long is it also makes you super impulsive. And for me, it's kind of akin to, I guess, being tipsy. I know my cognitive functions are not the greatest. I'm more likely to indulge in abusing my areas of sleep rather than like drinking or other substances because it doesn't affect my stomach. It doesn't, if I don't get enough sleep, it's not going to make me feel nauseous, you know, so I'm okay with not getting sleep. Also, just with the general fact that sleep has been tied up a lot with anxiety for me. So, a lot of having to deal with my anxiety involved the strict limit that was bedtime when I was younger. And the fact that I am now free as an adult to turn on the light whenever I feel like it is a big load off my mind. Being an adult, honestly, as someone who is a bit of a control freak, is actually a great way of dealing with is actually a better way of dealing with my anxiety. There are other things that I am anxious about, but there are a lot of anxieties that I had that were like me getting in trouble for things I cannot control. Yeah, that was just the dentist making sure that I didn't forget, and I'm kind of glad because I actually forgot when I scheduled the appointment, so. And talks of anxiety-inducing things. But yeah, so usually when I start doing wholesale ripping out like this, I usually just end up taking out the whole thing because I lose track. I mean, I could count, but if I'm taking it out at this point, I might as well just start completely over. And I also originally wanted this to be the inside pages while this was the cover, and I'm glad I reversed the decision because I have a lot more of this yarn than I do of that yarn. Even though I bought the darker purple yarn for use with the Centro machine, but I think if I still use it with this, I can still use it with the knitting machine later. Especially now that I found a yarn that works well with the knitting machine. So yeah, we're going to start over, and I kind of hope there is an abbreviation list in the back of the magazine that tells me what the different, I don't have to hope, I can just look at it now, can't I? Yeah, see, cognitive function's not really working. Is there like a, well, there's a how to knit section. Ah, there we go. How to crochet section. Boom. Ah, okay, yeah. So as you see here, I have an easy reference guide for all the British abbreviations. Even though I know how to do the basic stitches, I just don't know the names in British formatting because I happen to be in the United States. And if you want to talk about someone who puts their influence over everything that they do, the United States is definitely that obnoxious cousin who doesn't seem to recognize, who insists on doing things differently. I don't know if the rest of the English-speaking world follows the UK or the American version, but it's really a toss-up at this point, isn't it? Yeah, we're almost done at this point, and I'll just have to start over, although admittedly not while I am still somewhat asleep. I should probably just go to bed at this point and at least get some sleep, but also when I'm not using the same row counter for two different patterns, so I don't have to remember where this is, because I'm currently in the process of remembering 3 different numbers that belong here for 3 different patterns, and I'm scared that I'm going to forget one. But I insist on using the same row counter, even though I purposely bought more row counters recently to combat this problem. There's a lot stuck up here right now. I'm going to attempt this after I get some more sleep. I've redone the progress and then some. I'm not completely done yet, but I'm already loving this so much. And they say not to judge books by a cover, but if you were to judge this book by a cover, you would basically go, oh, what an adorable book. And it'd be right, right? Like, I still got about 12 more rows left to do with this. I'm playing Yarn Chicken. I don't know if I have enough, which makes me very thankful I've made the decision I did in switching to this yarn. Well, in switching the yarn, because I originally wanted it to be lighter inside than outside, but I think it's still going to work out amazingly. But yeah, once I finish this, I will have the cover, and then I get to do the fun stuff on the inside. Okay, let me show you where I'm at with the little book that I'm making. So I finished the cover I have to weave the ends in and sew it and whatnot. But I ended up losing, I think it's right over here, yeah. I lost the game of Yarn Chicken because that is all I have left of the light colored yarn. So I went searching in my stash and I found this other like purple sparkly yarn that I had. So I put it there on the one thing, even though it wouldn't be symmetrical, and that might kind of drive me a little bit mad. But it ended up looking really sharp. And then there's the hand that has to go on the front. So I ended up using the sparkly purple yarn to make the hands. That way the choice would look intentional. And it's going to be pretty exciting once I weave the ends in and I sew it together, how that's going to look. It wants me to put a word on the bottom, and even though the card that this is based off of has a word on the bottom like that, I don't really feel like putting a word there, so we're not going to have it. The front cover is actually going to look more like the back of a card in that regard. It also wants me to put ties on the book. This is the pattern, yeah. It wants me to put a tie there to kind of seal the book, but here's the thing. There are no babies that know how to tie bows, right? This is something that we teach kids when they're like 3 to 5, I want to say. Because they don't have the dexterity for that until then. I mean, you want little babies to interact with the books? Why make it hard to open? It's not like there's going to be a choking hazard in this book. I mean, it's a cute little touch. It's another, because like, Sensory Baby book feels like a precursor to fidget toy. I guess the bow would create like another like sensory thing that you could do, but I think the tie is kind of stupid. It looks cute, but it's stupid, so we're not going to have it. But I made 3 of the pages. They want me to block the pages, so that way they're all going to be the same size. I'm like 99.9999999% sure that that's not going to happen. Especially since even though blocking does work in some cases, it largely depends on the project and it largely depends on the type of yarn, and I don't feel blocking is something that's useful for acrylic yarn, which is what I'm using. But I did a waffle stitch page, and then I did a popcorn stitch page, then I did a loop page, which this is my first time doing this type of stitch. It was so simple. So simple. Oh my gosh. It was literally just like, hold this little bit of yarn as you're doing the stitch and you create like an extra loop there, and it was like perfect. I've got 1 page left. I've got a basket weave that I'm starting. I've done 2 rows of the basket weave as I'm holding it in the most awkward way possible. But once I finish that, I just got to weave ends in, then I can sew it all together, and then I'll be done. So I think the next time I'm going to be checking in, I'm going to be done in the book, which is going to be amazing. And I'll show it all off, a little show and tell. I finished it. Here it is. I mean, I didn't block it, so it's curly, and the pages aren't all the same size, so blocking wouldn't have fixed that, but that's because I was doing different textural stitches and they all different sizes, so it wasn't going to be perfect anyway. But I am thrilled with how this turned out. So like, you got the little hand on the front here, and then I got the waffle stitch page followed by this page, which I put in upside down, but I don't think it really matters because it's still cool. Like, if anyone's going to call me out for it, it's not a baby. And then I got my basket weave page right here. And then I got the popcorn stitch page. And the spine's not going anywhere. I sewed it pretty securely. And it's all purple. Every inch of this is purple. You can kind of see we got the sparkly here, and I got that, and this is just really adorable. I like this better than the picture I was going by, which is that's a good sign. When you make a project and you like it better than the picture And you see, even though the picture that I saw here is still freaking adorable, but it's like not only are the textures unusual, but you don't typically go like, I'm gonna knit a book today. That's more of a creative idea, which now I think about it, it's kind of hilarious that I pulled the creativity card when I said I was hoping for a spark of creativity. I mean, what a coincidence, right? I didn't plan that. That just happened. Yeah, I'm really thrilled with how this turned out. So anyway, that was today's entertainment. Have a nice day.